Welcome back, everybody, to the Celtics Double Take podcast. Rest in peace, Boston Celtics. We are on to the second round of the NBA playoffs. The first round did not go at all how I saw it going down. I was upset at the way the ladder worked out, that some of my favorite teams had to go up against each other right away. But now we're in the thick of it, and we're midway through round two. It's not shaping out the way I thought, but we have the parity in the league that we've been praying for a decade. So at least that's entertaining. James, what's been your favorite and least favorite thing about the playoffs so far? To put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a crazy ride. I'd say, well, I'm gonna start my least favorite. I really want the Mavs to close that one out, and now we're at this like Clippers Jazz series that I hope the Jazz take care of business. But the fact that Clippers Nets is in the realm of possibilities, that's just like, who cares? Like, the NBA is amidst a ratings crisis. I guess people were like excited to watch this Nets team because of all the stars, but it's two teams that have such unloyal fan bases that I feel like it's just like a loss for everybody. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. But I think my favorite part of it thus far is actually something that annoyed me initially, and that was LeBron getting bounced. But I'm actually really excited for Chris Paul. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but Chris Paul's a guy that like couldn't catch any breaks in the playoffs. And now it's like the door is completely wide open for him. He's catching this break of not having to face Jamal Murray in the first round, and then also catching LeBron and AD amidst like an injury bug. This is like the best news for Chris Paul fans, and I think he'd take this one in the house. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, in a duel, like these are conflicting opinions from me, but like my least favorite thing is Portland and the Lakers getting bounced so early. Like obviously the Celtics too, but like I was rooting for Dame and this awesome squad and the Blazers to go far. I was rooting for LeBron to at least give us like an entertaining playoff run, and they both got eliminated. My favorite thing is Chris Paul and the Suns, like this upstart team that maybe Chris Paul can finally reach the promised land and overcome. Like he had the injury in the first round, and as soon as that happened, everyone's like, "Oh, Chris Paul, it happened again! Like this guy's made of glass. Like here we go again." That meme, and now he's up 3-0 on the Nuggets. I love it.
Yeah, I guess his shoulder just isn't broken. Like heard a crack, but it was for any 40-year-old man to experience that. He's just okay now.
I heard that he like pinched a nerve or something, turning his head, which like is the worst. But like I think they said like it can take in 48 hours, he can be good, or it can be 2 weeks. Like you don't know, and he just one day turned up and he's good again. So I think we should jump off with the Bucks and the Nets, because this series just got tied up after the first two games. I thought the Nets were going to run away with it. The Nets ran through the Celtics, other than Jaylen Brown like going God mode and getting us a win in that series. The Nets officially ended the Danny Ainge era in Boston, which I can't say that I'm like too broken up about, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to get into the whole entire Brad Ainge thing right off the bat, I mean, kind of ironic that him apparently fleecing the Nets all those years back when we got all those assets for our old big three. It just like now the Nets are the team that gets him out of there. It's kind of ironic that they now have a chance to go to the finals over us. And who would have thought that those years ago? I think that was like 2012, 2011. If you had told somebody that the Nets had a better chance at making the finals since that point onward, they'd call you crazy. Somehow they've kind of clawed back, and it just showed what Ainge had done in the last 4 years, which is kind of absolutely nothing and everything at the same time. We can talk about the Isaiah Thomas curse all we want, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like he lived a lifetime in Boston. He was there for probably far too long. And we need a fresh start. Is Brad Stevens' answer? I mean, I'll let you start off with that one, because I do have my doubts.
I believe in Brad, and I kind of wish he was still coaching this team, but I will say that his strengths were basketball IQ and his weaknesses were personnel and like coaching players. So I think that if he's able to take a step back and
coaching players,
he can coach teams, but not players, if that makes any sense at all. Like he can coach a unit of guys to success. When it came to managing egos and trying to bring the best out of people, there was some left to be desired. And so him moving into a role where he can just use his basketball IQ to now you can put the chess pieces on the board and figure out how to play them and bring someone in that can kind of manage these talents. I think it might be a better scenario for us. I think that free agents in general, past like Kemba, would not be willing to come and sign with Boston, because Ainge 1 year after signing Kemba was trying to trade him this last offseason. And after after Isaiah, after Kemba, this is the guy that traded away Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Like, who would sign with this team and have any kind of comfort that they were going to finish their contract here? Danny Ainge, we knew the whole time, was like a shark, and it provided some benefits for us. But the fact that he couldn't get us where he needed to be, I'm happy that Brad's going to step in there. It's going to be tough to see Brad make those tough decisions because Brad, I feel like I want him to be everyone's friend, but
well, that's the thing. I think that's what you have to be worried. I think his strengths and weaknesses as a coach are going to translate directly into his new role in the sense that I think he's a really smart guy. I can't really see him, drafting too many busts, making too many bad trades. But will he have the heart to look at the guy that he coached for 4 years and tell him that he's being traded? Is he going to have the balls to? And if he can't manage the guys on the team while he's being the coach, I guess like maybe in this sense you say that he's in control of their contracts, so maybe he'll have more authority. But I don't know if I see that ability to kind of make that hard call to kind of stomp on the person that he had created, so to speak. I mean, a guy like Marcus Smart, who really owes a lot of his success to Brad Stevens, is just kind of like he's gone. We all know he's gone, and he's going to have to trade that guy. I don't know if he's going to buy himself much loyalty points around the league when he has to completely blow up this roster. So these are my concerns going into it. I mean, I think that if he's trying to be, or if the Celtics are trying to make him like the next Pat Riley or the next Phil Jackson, some guy who can like ebb and flow between like coach and GM and have success in both, then I think he's capable of it. But at the same time, he hasn't even won a title yet. So can we really say he can?
If the choice was lose Brad or move him to this position, I'm definitely preferring him staying with the team. And he's got to build us a contender to try and take down the rest of the Eastern Conference because the Sixers, Hawks, Bucks, and Nets all look infinitely better than we did the whole season. And
maybe not the Hawks the whole season, but yeah, they certainly look better now.
30 games at least when Trae Young figured out how to play
basketball
to his strengths. Yeah, not just play ISO. Let's start with the Bucks and Nets. I thought the Nets had this series in 4 for a second there. Giannis really has been exposed that he is a god in transition and can do all these things. But if you just take out the rest of his team and just force him to play one-on-one, he'll do what he can do, but there's just a lot to be desired. That his game hasn't developed a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's actually funny. I think he was a better 3-point shooter 3 years ago than he is now. But obviously it's hard for him as he gets so much stronger. And I think he just gets bigger and bigger. It's just hard to kind of adapt to the current frame that you have. But yeah, there's no more passes left for Giannis. I mean, this is kind of a career on the edge, on the cliff of all right, are we going to kind of dismiss you, or are you going to elevate to a whole new level? If he takes out the Nets at this point, then that's the path he's going to take. Now, initially, you go into this thinking James Harden's going to be back. This series kind of is a wrap, like you said, to go to the 2-0 lead. But with this new Kyrie Irving injury, he sprains his ankle in this game and they lose. It puts them at a place of do you have to rush Harden back? Is Harden necessary now? Listen, Kevin Durant looks as good as he did before the injury. He looks just as good as he's ever been, which is insane. But he's obviously not going to be able to do this alone. He needs at least one other part of the big three. And now you're at this point where you're injured at the worst time. And this is what we've seen from so many teams, even translating to different sports like the Chiefs. You just lose 2 offensive linemen. It doesn't matter how talented you are. That's what I'm worried for. If you're a Nets fan, that's what you're worried for. I'm not a Nets fan, so I don't care. And I think that this is the golden opportunity for Giannis to say, all right, I'm going to get to a conference finals. At that point, everyone can shut up because I got to at least a conference finals, which is more than Chris Paul can say, which is more than Russell Westbrook without KD can say, which is more than a lot of players can say. So that's going to earn him, at least some brownie points for the league.
Definitely. My feeling about the Nets is kind of similar to the Lakers, where you can complain all you want that our guys are getting hurt if they end up getting knocked out. But when Chris Paul got hurt for a second, there was no excuse. When LeBron and AD are going down with injuries, there's no excuse. So if the Nets don't make it, injuries are just part of the game. We said there was 2 ways the Nets could not win a championship this year: if their egos got in the way and they couldn't figure out how to gel, or if they got hurt. And those are both very real possibilities because of their history with having big egos and because of their history with injuries. Kyrie injures his ankle every single playoffs. He missed the finals because of it. I don't know if it was his ankle that he missed the playoffs, whether his first year, but this is always happening to him. James Harden, not necessarily, but like he's had that nagging leg injury the whole season,
Yeah.
and now it's come back to bite him at the worst time. But again, like Kevin Durant built, I mean, maybe he didn't build it, but he has just this perfect team built around him. He
Yeah.
should be able to win them 2 games of the next 5, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Make no mistake, he is the team. Like, and I know that sounds disrespectful to James Harden, who might be a top 5 player still, but Kevin Durant is what makes you a contender on this team. Like, Kyrie Irving is great, and he has won a ton next to LeBron. Like Harden, an amazing player, especially in the regular season. But without Durant, this is you're just a whole entire league away from where you were with him. Like he is a guy that you just cannot lose. Thankfully, he's the one who hasn't caught this injury bug. But I mean, if the Nets can get healthy in time, then if it's just about getting past Milwaukee, because at this point now you're thinking if we're all healthy for this impending Sixers or Hawks series, then all is well. But if you can't get past the Bucks because they stifled you at the worst time, you haven't scored 100 points in 2 games. Like what you this is a big game 5. This is a
Yeah.
big game 5 for the Nets. I'm excited to see it. I actually honestly like at this point, I thought I'd be rooting more against the Nets than I am, but they're a fun team to watch, and this is a fun series all of a sudden. So I'm with it.
It's tough that they have players I really don't like because I really do like Blake Griffin a lot. And I've
Steve
always been
Nash,
like
love Steve
fine with
Nash.
James Harden. Like, yeah, if it was the Harden Blake Griffin show, then yeah, absolutely. But the Kyrie and KD show, I'm very sick of. So I'd be fine to see Giannis make it past this round. Are you ready to move on to the Sixers and the Hawks?
Yeah,
Any final
interesting
thoughts?
series.
Interesting series. I'm definitely rooting hard for the Hawks just because I think it'd be funny to see the Sixers lose again. But the Sixers are a team built like a championship team. So the fact the Hawks grabbed game 1 shocked me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that out of all the teams left, at least in the regular season, you thought maybe the Sixers had the more inconsistent way of offense, but they're actually averaging the most points per game out of any team in the playoffs. Like, and they're doing a really good job just like getting other people involved. I think in their last game, Harris, Simmons, Curry, all in double figures, all of what you want to see. And Embiid at this point, listen, I don't know how he's playing on a torn meniscus. I don't know what the severity of his injury is, but at this point, he's reaching that, his apex where you're saying like, this is a guy who, like I said with Durant before, this is kind of your team. Like, this is what puts you ahead. They are a solid team, but like, that's what the series has become is that the Knicks didn't have an Embiid and the Hawks are able to completely dismantle them. Then the Hawks are very deep. They can score with anybody, but they don't have trouble attacking that primary like all-star, that marquee player that is going to put teams over the edge. They have no answer for him. And it's
Yeah.
kind of obvious, like at any point that, they get a run on, they start to slip away and B could always get to the line. You had to guard him out on the 3-point line and he moves kind of like Giannis at times, which is pretty crazy.
There's definitely a version of the Sixers that are like a very solid, like contending basketball team where when Ben Simmons doesn't have to be creating points for the team, he can just be out there playing point guard and doing well in transition. When Tobias Harris, who we said was the X factor all along, when he's hitting shots, and again, when Embiid has the ability to have his legs under him and win the game, they're going to keep beating these teams. The Hawks, I'm glad that Trae Young has figured out how to like deal with double teams and how to have the team succeed when he's not necessarily creating all the points. But I also like to see just another young star like lighting it up. I hope that series can be more competitive because I kind of feel like Philly's going to run away with the rest of it.
I started to figure it out, but let me ask you this. What is separate in terms of like first 3 years of career? Like if you look at Trae Young, I don't want to get disrespectful, but and you look at Steph Curry, there's a lot of comparisons to be made. Like in the way that they're like they found out how to like control the pace of the game at this young age. Even their college careers go to that that not Duke, not this huge school. Oklahoma's no joke, but he was the team. And they did have a very similar college career in the sense they're carrying their teams with 30, 40-point games. And that has translated to the league. And they're kind of doing the same things in the early stages of their career. Both are kind of embracing this villain. I guess Steph Curry is not as much of the villain he used to be, but they're very comfortable in that role. And the way that they kind of pick you apart, the way that they're able to deal with double teams, I think Trae Young is just missing that off-ball element that Steph has. But and in terms of his progression, I mean, he's right there. He's right there. So, I think that he is the player to watch outside of Luka Doncic. He is the player to watch, in my opinion, for the next like 3 to 4 years in terms of progression.
I was listening to Bill Simmons talk about him on one of his latest episodes, and he
Mm-hmm.
was the guy on the episode with him was saying how Bill was really hard on Trae Young's first 2 years, how he came out of college and he was just a one-man show on a losing basketball team, and how Bill hated how like stars could get to fame like Trae
Yeah,
Young and Devin Booker by just scoring a lot of points on losing basketball teams. But the way they've both been able to like suffer through it and get themselves on a winning team, like some guys would just jump ship right away, but they've suffered through the hard times, and now their game of scoring 30 a game when they're surrounded by the right pieces can translate to wins. And Booker kind of has Chris Paul to like bring the leadership element and bring winning ways, but Trae Young had to figure it out on his own. Like he was in a
yeah,
very hostile environment in New York, and a guy that plays so much iso ball could have just said like, let me just take it upon myself and like not pass to anyone. But he gets his team involved, and that's like been like the first half of the season. The Hawks look like the Hawks last year, where they have some good moments and they can go off for a ton of points, but their defense just lacks so much it doesn't matter. In the second half of the season, especially after Trae got hurt for a little bit and the rest of the guys on the team had to figure out their roles without Trae, they've just been a much more dynamic team basketball team. And they're also just like a team of the future where you have like the guard that can shoot from 40 feet away. And the way their team is built is just very much conducive to the way basketball is moving. And Trae Young is like the perfect new era basketball player. He's the next Steph Curry, so to speak. And I think his career arc will reflect that. I don't know if I can make comparisons to Steph in terms of greatness, because Steph has just like done it for so long at such a high level. But Trae is definitely like taking the steps, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, obviously Trae Young didn't change the game. Steph Curry did, but
Yeah.
so let's not argue legacy. But in terms of ability, I think that just first 3 years, I think if you're a Hawks fan, you just hope that you're able to keep this guy and sign him to that super max. Now, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
I want to move on to this Phoenix Denver series because game 4 is actually going on as we speak. It's
Yep.
Sunday, June 13th at 8 o'clock. So it literally
Yeah.
just got tipped off. Um, this one to me, and I want to get because I think Jazz Clippers is a lot more to unpack.
Right.
It's just kind of like the Chris Paul uh like in the Oscars where like they give someone like a lifetime achievement award,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
not like because they did, it's just like something that year, it's just more an appreciation. This is like him gliding through the Nuggets who are injured, gliding through the Lakers who are injured, because this is his like appreciation tour where it's just
So
kind
many
of
so
like,
many bad breaks. He finally just deserves some good luck.
yeah, it's just kind of like he's getting the matchups that are just so conducive to his success, and I'm not happy for him because of that. I'm not trying to say his path is whatever, this is a fake championship, whatever. It's completely legit, but I mean, he as an injured old man not having to play against Jamal Murray in this series is like a blessing that you can't even describe. Especially
Yeah.
that he's going to go in to the next series with so much juice. Like I'm happy for the guy. It's what I started the show off with, and hopefully, he can take care of business in the next round, because this is a team that I want to see represent the West, come the finals.
Yeah. Chris Paul is like going to have the chance to potentially take down the Clippers, who like wronged him in so many ways. Slash, maybe he wronged them, but like I feel like in his mind they only wronged him.
Yeah,
The Nuggets might win tonight, but barring an absolute miracle, the Suns are going to advance to the next round. So you have to look at their success this season. Like seemed like a fluke that they were in first place for so long and the top of the West, especially with like the Lakers and Clippers continuing to like ebb and flow through the season. And then when they played the Lakers first round, especially when LeBron was like dancing on Jay Crowder, it was like, all right, like the Suns had a good year, but like Chris
yeah,
Paul's hurt again, obviously, and the Lakers are about to go run through them. But they just stood up and shot the Lakers down. And I think it was also actually, this might have just been an Instagram post, but someone was saying how like the Suns could like create a return to the old like style of basketball teams where you have your all-around point guard who can dish it out and also get points. You have your scoring two guard, and you have a big man that can rim run and protect the paint. Like DeAndre Ayton is the very valuable piece to that team. And it's not just a team that's just like hucking up threes all game. They play team basketball. Jay Crowder like he's played the same role in every team he's been on, but it just works so well here. He just
Yeah.
catch and shoot in the corner, like gets in fights with people. I'm loving it from Jay. I like a lot of guys on the Suns team, and they're definitely the team I'm rooting for to win a championship. That'd be the most fun if like Chris Paul all of a sudden Devin Booker shoots into stardom. I feel bad for Denver because if they had Jamal Murray, they'd be my championship pick right now.
Yeah, I mean, if they had Jamal Murray, this would be a 7-game series. Like, yeah, it'd certainly be a lot more entertaining than it is right now. But you're completely right about, first of all, Ayton. I mean, this is a guy who caught a lot of. I mean, if you get drafted before Luka Doncic, just in the terms of like history, you're just hoping you're not the next Sam Bowie. Like, but the fact that he has stepped up in the playoffs, now he's seen by national audience as a guy who is a consistent 20 and 10, who puts in the effort, who's standing his ground against Jokic. Like, this is so good for him. And this is a guy that Chris Paul and Devin Booker like had to kind of grow to trust and like to play with. So, just from that improvement standpoint, it's certainly impressive. But yeah, I mean, I really just felt like between that Suns and Lakers series, I thought like, all right, the winner of this series, like I give them the best chance to get to the, if not the conference finals, the literal finals. So I think that this is, like you said, barring some kind of crazy miracle that the Nuggets have done before, I'd say that like, I don't know. You look at Phoenix with a lot of rest. That's just going to be a hard team to beat. So,
Yeah, give Chris Paul a break for a minute.
Yeah, give him a week off. Maybe he'll just take a vacation amidst it. Just have a little icy hot patch riding on the banana boat.
Before we get into this next series, like who do you think just straight up he's gonna be playing next round? Who do you see coming out?
Between Clippers and Jazz, you're saying?
Yeah.
And the reason why is the same reason why I'll bet against every team against the Nets. Is like I'm gonna say the Jazz because I can't say the Clippers.
You just hate them too much.
It's just like I just don't want to see it. I'm like on top of them being an unlikable team, they're just such a terrible team to watch. It just is not fun to watch at the Clippers, as opposed to it's like if you've ever been stuck in a bad basketball team and you play like another team and they're happy, they got good chemistry and they're kicking your ass and they're laughing, high-fiving each other, and you're like, man, that seems like a fun team to be on. That's what like Clippers players must feel like when the Jazz win. It's just like, look at them moving the ball around. It's beautiful. They can step into ISO when needed. They can go in and out of 2-3 zone. They're just so malleable. You got all these guys who are just team players. That's why I think that what makes the Jazz different. On the other hand, Spider Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, a guy that has continuous connection to Jason Tatum for some reason, debate of who's the better young player. This is a guy who's like always stepped up in the playoffs and now is like reaching this level of superstardom where you start to think like, we got to start thinking about Donovan Mitchell a little different. This guy has been the best player and the best team in the West. So what does that mean? And if he's performing like this in the playoffs, I mean, I don't know what more you want from the guy.
Yeah, the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, I just expected so much more from. There was a minute in the series against Luka and the Mavs where I was like, man, Kawhi is actually falling off a cliff. Like Kawhi is in like the downfall of his career. But he turned it on and he beat Luka, he beat the Mavs, and he was able to get the Clippers a win the other night. Kawhi is like the only player on the Clippers that I'm actually interested in seeing like try and get another ring, like try and go up against like KD or something, because Paul George, he has claimed to be overhated, and I honestly can't argue with that. Like, there is no real reason I should hate Paul George as much as I do, but I just don't.
He kind of puts himself out there, man.
I just don't like him.
Yeah. You can't say like I'm playoff P, and then like there's like a bit on the TNT crew where like Chuck was like, I don't call myself championship Chuck. Like it's just kind of like, listen, you gotta in this league. Like the fans are so vicious, especially when it comes to the playoffs, that you really have to like earn it. It's like a nickname. You can't give it to yourself. Like it has to come from other people because you earned it. And like, I think that's why he's so overhated. I mean, as far as Kawhi goes though, like I actually didn't realize he's the top leading scorer in the playoffs out of all the guys putting up crazy numbers out of Luka and all. It's Kawhi Leonard. He is the leading scorer of the playoffs, and sneakily, he's pulled out these like when he needs to, these two-way games that we haven't seen from Kawhi since that championship run. Like he in that Mavs series and in recent games, like he'll pull out the stops, and it's just like, oh wait, I forgot this guy was the best player in the league debatably, like only 2-3 years ago. And when you see it, that's what makes the Clippers scary. That's what makes it possible for them to go to the finals. But I don't know if Mitchell keeps playing like this, it's going to be hard to. He's got so much heart. He's got the whole city behind him. Like it just seems like the classic like crumble in front of the Utah crowd every away game for the Clippers.
This Clippers Jazz series is the ultimate testament of like I'd like to see Paul George and Kawhi in a championship series like against like KD and Kyrie if you care about the big names. But if you care about watching good basketball and rooting for like an underdog good team, like the Jazz are just like who you got to be rooting for. Like Rudy Gobert, after everything that he went through last year, and he got so much disrespect of like he's like, yeah, you can play defense, but like what does it matter? He's actually an anchor out there. Like he is so important to their success. And you have Joe Ingles and Bogdanovich, like you have just these white dudes like knocking down threes in your face that look like they should be substitute teachers. And
It's true.
Mitchell is genuinely a lot of fun to watch, but that's really it on that team as far as like razzle dazzle. So the Jazz, as boring as they are, I don't know. It could be interesting to see like a Jazz Suns series, just these two teams out of nowhere. No one would have suspected from the beginning of the year. Two like very much like team basketball heavy teams. Could be interesting.
It'd be great. I think it's all the matchups with this Clippers series. Like Joe
Yeah.
Ingles has had Paul George's number for ever since that Thunder Jazz series back in the day, where they sent him packing in the first round. Like he had this quote, like he was like, "I don't care about Joe Ingles. Like don't ask me about Joe Ingles." I'm like, yeah, Joe Ingles is in your head, like
Absolutely.
and if he's one of those players that if your second best player is susceptible to emotionally reacting to guys on the other team, um, Joe Ingles is a weapon. Joe Ingles is no joke. I mean, he was second place sixth man of the year. Like, and I think that the fact that Clarkson and him were neck and neck for that award just shows you how deep they are. And I know that it's just about identity too. It's just like the Clippers don't know who they are. They switch their lineups every time. With Ibaka being out, it just seems like I don't know. Do you see a roadmap for them to like go past the Western Conference Finals? That's like
I
the
thought they
thing.
were
As
going to lose in
talented
the
as they
first
are,
round. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
as talented as they are, like they just do not look like they are headed for success ever. Like they're built around just supporting Kawhi and Paul George, who succeed like independently. Like that tandem, a lot like Brown and Tatum in many ways. Like they don't succeed because they have the other person very much. It's just their own individual efforts that bring them forward, and the
Yeah,
rest of that team built around them is just it doesn't help them as much as it should, in my
no,
opinion.
no, they don't know who to play.
So if it ended up being the way it looks right now is Jazz and Suns in the West, and that'd be a fun series. Just get some fresh blood in there. I'd love to see the Suns come out with it. I think the Sixers come out to the conference finals. I genuinely don't know with the Bucks and Nets. I think it'll depend on injuries, but the Bucks also have not shown me a lot in these playoffs. Giannis has not shown me a lot in these playoffs. So I'm willing to place my bets on the Sixers and Nets. And with no injuries, I'm predicting a Suns Nets finals. The Nets will probably win. With injuries, I'm predicting a Sixers Suns finals. And I don't know. It'd be interesting. If it is Jazz and Suns, it'd be interesting to see Embiid match up against Ayton or Gobert. Like, I don't know how many times the Jazz and Sixers played this year, but maybe like Rudy Gobert could just finally shut down Joel Embiid, be the first guy all season. Could happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, here's the thing though. Whoever wins this Brooklyn Milwaukee series, it's gonna be hard not to see them like go to the finals, in my opinion. I think with as close as it's gonna be, you really feel like the Destiny team. Um, I don't know. When it comes to the Eastern Conference, things are so much more contested, but like here's the thing with those four teams. Like the Jazz don't have as much to lose as the rest of the other teams do. Like Chris Paul has everything to lose. Like this is the shot he's been waiting for his whole career. This is it. Brooklyn, the championship expectations have been there the whole season. If they don't even make it to the conference finals, it's a complete disaster. And Giannis, who everyone has doubted, who has been like this kind of who we doubt all the time, who you doubted earlier in the show, saying like, "Where are you? Where how have you not progressed?" Are you just going to be a first round guy, second round guy? You're ever going to actually do something with the dominance that you show? There's so much more riding on the line that that's why I kind of maybe count out the Jazz. But like you said, with injury, I think Sixers Suns is going to be what you kind of expect, which in my opinion, hang up the banners in Phoenix. I just think with Ayton, if Ayton's able to keep up with Jokic, he's gonna give Embiid at least a little bit of a struggle. And I just don't see you're seeing it in times with even in that Atlanta game, the first one that they won. It's like when Simmons is not a factor, it's just it's him and Thibault are like the same player. And this is a
Yeah.
number one overall pick that was compared to LeBron early in his career. Like if he's not kind of like the guy in a game, if he can't score 15 points, it's I don't know. It's Chris Paul is going to score more than 15 points. Devin Booker is going to score more than 15 points. So that, and that series, like I'd be happy. I'd be happy to see Chris Paul win. I mean, barring injury, I feel like that's what's going to happen. But I mean, I don't know. Kyrie's probably just going to like inject some crazy like
Yeah.
serum that he got from LeBron in the Cavs days and like just be completely okay. And Harden's going to come back and it's just going to be it. It's going to be Chris Paul getting swept by those three guys.
I didn't watch the injury to Kyrie, but I also feel like he's going to be back by the end of this series. I also think that whether it's the Bucks or the Nets, if they can figure out how to beat the other team, they can figure out how to beat the Sixers, which in my opinion are much more flawed and have a lot more holes.
Totally.
I'd be down to see Chris Paul just go on an all-out revenge tour of beating the Clippers and then beating Blake Griffin, but who the hell knows what's going to happen in the next two rounds? And also, if it was Chris Paul versus Blake Griffin, James Harden, and then Kevin Durant, who also like cost him a championship one year, that'd be something to watch.
It would be. It would be.
So wait, I want to ask, who do you want to win the finals, and who do you pick to probably win the finals?
Barring Kyrie ankle, I think the Nets will win.
Yep.
But I do want out of the teams left, I think I want Chris Paul. I want Chris Paul to win that. But
Yep.
I honestly would not be disappointed if any of the teams won that isn't the Nets. I'm serious. Literally, maybe not the Clippers. Okay, it's not the Clippers. Clippers and Nets excluded. I would not be unhappy by any means. Like Giannis winning a championship, that could be cool. Can legitimize his career forever. Get that out of the way. I think with Chris Paul, it's obvious. But I don't know. With Embiid, if Embiid wins a title and he's the best player on that team, then the best player in the league argument like is going to get a little cloudy, and it already has been getting a little cloudy. So it'd all be exciting. Before we go though, I want to ask you because it is now from the point of our last show to now, it actually is confirmed that we are looking to trade Kemba, and he's a hard asset to trade.
Yeah.
I want to get your Kemba trade, your wild Kemba trade. I think we should both put forward a wild Kemba trade. Why it works, why it makes sense, why you want it to happen. And yeah, I just want to hear it because I think Celtics fans, this has been a discussion topic for a while, and now it's like the gas has been thrown in the fire. It's legit.
Okay, wow. So the Kemba thing, I saw a mock trade for him that was like the Celtics trade Kemba, a 2022 first round pick, and a 2025 first round pick, and get nothing back. It's just like 2 first round picks plus Kemba to get rid of. So the bar is already pretty low. I'm trying to look through teams of like who would even take him. I think the Nets or the Knicks probably would be a good spot for him to land. Maybe Portland. Maybe we get McCollum if they're trying to have a fire sale there. They wouldn't want Kemba. Oh gosh, you really put me on the spot.
I put you on the spot, so I'll give you some time. With the Knicks, I actually joked with my Knicks fan roommate. I told him, I'm like, I'll give you Kemba for Frankie Smoke straight up. Like it's like we're that desperate to get rid of him. I'll take Frankie Nicotine, but my 2 trades. I'll give you 2. I'll give you 2. All you think. The first one.
So you can. So yeah, go for it.
The first one's one that I've had for a while, which is Kemba and Jaylen Brown thrown into Karl-Anthony Towns package from the Timberwolves. So they give us Cat, maybe Okogie, something else to make it worth our while. But that's a way to kind of you take the value of Jaylen and you take Kemba's contract and you kind of get something valuable in return. That's kind of like the biggest win in my opinion for how it's going to go. A more realistic trade is like Kevin Love. I think that Kevin Love is pulling a Blake Griffin right now, where like he looks like he's broken down. He's got nothing. I just don't think he's
Yes.
trying. Why would you try on the Cavs? And I think him for K Love, we throw in some first. You know, I probably think they're probably gonna like try to deal with the Garland Sexton situation in a different direction. So if that's the way that they're going, I think that could be really valuable for us. Those are my two. I don't want KP on my team. I thought about it. I've slept on it. I've given it some weeks. I don't want Kristaps Porzingis on our team. He's actually not good. I don't think he's a personality we need. I don't know. I don't care where he goes, but I don't want him here.
So the Kevin Love thing is genius. I'm thinking in the same vein as you, is where we can't just swap Kemba for another point guard. Like I don't think that anyone's looking to
Yeah.
make that kind of swap. But so Kevin Love, that's honestly better than both the things I'm going to say, because the first thing that popped into my head was Kristaps Porzingis. I'm like, here's a disgruntled star that wants out of town. The Mavericks could legitimately use a point guard to pair with Luka, and I could see Luka like reviving Kemba's necessity a little bit.
Sure.
But I agree with you. Kristaps Porzingis is complaining that he's not a star on this team. Like, make yourself a star, dude. Like, it's not like they're not feeding you the ball. Like, he did not impress me at all this year. At 7'3", he's be grabbing more than 6 or 7 rebounds. It's all on him. Yeah. So yeah, if you throw Porzingis in with Tatum and Brown, that'd be ugly. Jaylen Brown, I'm not ready to give up on yet. So I as much as it would help to throw him in with that trade, I think that would hurt us. I think a good option, depending on what we could get and give, would be that Al
John
Horford.
Wall. Oh, okay.
Al Horford sat out the entire end of the season because they were just like we don't want, like, you don't want to get hurt and we don't want to win. Like, you obviously don't fit here. He's making $24 million in the next 2 years, so it's only 2 years. It's a lot of money, but I honestly think that Al Horford would bring us more for $10 million less than Kemba is, and he would fill a need at the big man position to play defense for us at big man. He would open up our point guard position for Marcus Smart and the many point guards we have on our roster. Maybe Isaiah Thomas comes back. Who's to say? I think that Kemba could provide some veteran leadership to the Thunder, who I think are honestly still looking to tank as it is. And I think the Thunder, again, they're paying him $24 million to literally not play. So it's not like we'd have to give up Kemba and a draft pick. Like, they might even give us a draft pick to take Al Horford.
No.
So
we would we would have to. And that's why it works. The Thunder value first round picks more than anyone in the league. Yeah. And like, even if we end up having like the 20th pick, it's still what the Thunder want. But I agree. It's Al Horford is 2 bad years that are still 10 million less than Kemba's, as opposed to his like 4 bad years. Like, and if you're the Thunder and you just want to eat this contract, you also get a guy to mentor Shai Gilgeous. It seems like a better situation for them than having Al Horford sit on the bench. But we would have to give a pick. I think that's my second favorite behind Kevin Love. I think
Kevin Love is great.
I think Kevin Love, it would be the perfect fit. Now, the Cavs would have to be looking in a different direction with the Garland, Sexton things. I don't think they can have all three, but certainly there could be a discussion of a Jaylen being added to that and us getting one of those guys. So, who knows? Who knows?
It's all in Brad's hands, which we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, it is in
what
Brad's
that looks
hands.
like.
Yeah,
it's
Celtics
be a
fans,
very different team, I think, next year.
If you're tired of blaming Brad, then get used to it. Buckle up, because you're in for a ride this offseason.
Love it. All right, that's gonna do it for us this week on the Double Take Show. You can follow us on YouTube at Double Take. You can follow us on iTunes at the Celtics Double Take. You can follow us on Instagram at the Double Take Show. James, any final words before we sign off this week?
I almost forgot to mention this. Glenn Davis put out on Instagram, he thinks that Kyrie injured the ankle because it was the same foot that he stepped on Lucky with. You're a clown for that, Glenn. We don't like him either, but you're a clown for that. I just didn't want to forget that. Had to be said.
Love it. Glenn Davis, quit being a big baby. Go Celtics. Go Suns. That's who I'm riding with.
There you go.
See you soon.